I'm going to take Gabe because Gabe has been waiting, and Gabe is the guy who emailed us. So I want to quickly talk to Gabe, but there is a couple of the other calls I do want to get to if we have time. Gabe, how are you?
Hey, Mr. Gilliver. Hi, student Dr. Ben. Thank you for responding to the email. I just read it at 3 in the morning.
It's not that time for me, so it's fine.
I wanted to talk to you about the response my parents gave me. You know, like I read in the book, the Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. My mom read it; she liked it and everything. But then
Gabe,
later,
very quickly,
changed her mind.
Gabe, very quickly, just for the sake of the audience, do you want to kind of go over what you asked us previously and kind of the advice we gave you and how that helped?
Okay, yes. Well, I think I talked to you about how to speak to conservative Catholic parents who are medical doctors and who are very religious, and how to speak about, I guess, atheism and about, I guess, the beliefs that they have that are not correct.
Yeah.
I guess that sums it up more or less. I don't know. I forgot more or less because it's been a while too.
No, that's fine. So what's the kind of follow up on that? I know we've spoken by email, but just for the sake of the viewers and the listeners, what is the kind of follow up to that last conversation we had?
Well, I learned the Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. My mom read the book. She liked the book. She talked about her friends, how they have like a negative idea that contradicts science. And I know once she started talking about that, I talked to her about, the Bible. I showed her the Exodus 21, Leviticus 25 instructions on slavery. And she was horrified by it. She was horrified by what she believed. And, we had a conversation about evolution, about Adam and Eve. And my parents actually do believe in Adam and Eve. They stopped me and said, no, those are myths. We don't believe in Noah's Ark. We don't believe in Adam and Eve. We don't believe in a child battle. And well, the conversation ended there. I come back like 3-4 months later, and they reverted back to everything. They took everything back that we had talked about. Now they're back to their Catholic beliefs. They believe in the devil. They believe in God. My mom specifically said that she doesn't care if the Bible supports slavery or misogyny, that she's okay with slavery and misogyny. And then she tried to tell me about a demonic experience that she had in the house. And I tried to talk to her about it. I asked her why is it the default explanation always something spiritual? I asked her, why can't we apply the scientific method to those types of events? And how do they differ from events from people from different faiths that claim that their God is the one that did that event? But, she basically ran away from the conversation. She said she doesn't want to have conversations with me or anyone. And that's where I was at.
Yeah, Ben, have you got any advice or kind of pointers? You weren't involved in the conversation with Gabe the last time he called the show. So kind of what's your take on this?
It's a hard one. I think if this is something you want to keep having the discussion with them about, it will probably take a lot of time. And it'll take, even if they start questioning things, they're probably going to have some times where they are more skeptical and start thinking in a better way, but then they'll go back a little bit. And there's certain things with human psychology and everything that will cause them to kind of go back and forth for a little bit potentially. But I don't think, I don't want you, number one, to think that it's your fault, whatever result happens. Because you can't control what another person is thinking or where they're going to go. That's their responsibility for what their brain does. So even if you had the perfect conversation with them, it still might not convince them. And that's just, you have to accept that, number one, as it's not an issue with you. It is not your fault. It is not that you did something wrong. Maybe, sure, there might be ways that you could change how you frame things or whatever, but like ultimately it's not your fault that they weren't convinced. But two, like it is going to be a process for everybody, and it's going to take a lot of patience on your part to maybe continue having those conversations, or if that's too much, like it is okay to set boundaries and walk away and not engage further. Because another thing too is I know for my family would not be convinced by me giving them the conversation. Like I just know for a fact there's bias in there with my family that they would not be receptive to me telling them. And so maybe somebody else needs to be the one to talk to them. Maybe there's other variables that need to play into this, but like there isn't a formula I can give you for like this is going to work or like this isn't going to work. If you want to continue that conversation, like, and you have the mental energy for it and the emotional energy to do it, then like go ahead. You can keep trying to have those conversations, keep engaging in a street epistemology type style that's gentle and allowing them to evaluate their own thought process. But don't think that you are obligated to do that. Don't think that you need to take full responsibility for that situation, and know that you can walk away at any time. So I guess that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, I had a question
Yeah.
for you, since I know you're a medical doctor, Dr. Ben.
As long as it's not a medical question about you, because I cannot give medical advice on this show. But
Okay, well, it's because I don't know if it's something like psychological, because my parents are medical doctors, and well, they say they agreed on it, like when I first talked to them, but then they reversed. They did a complete 180, like 3 months later.
well, there's probably some bias. There's probably some bias in that equation, and again, that's where I'm saying like they might be kind of switching back and forth between certain viewpoints, and like evaluating your own thought process is very difficult. Self-awareness is very difficult, and I think like we have the desire, just like as humans, to when we're confronted with being uncomfortable with the conversation or being uncomfortable with the dissonance, which I kind of think that dissonance is a good thing because it helps you as long as you use it well and you look at the dissonance and say, I'm going to evaluate this because something's not consistent. But the natural reaction is to just backpedal and not face the issue again because it is uncomfortable. And so I don't think that like they're doing anything outside. I mean, I don't know the conversation, but I don't think they're doing anything outside of what is normal for humans to do in that situation. And it might just be that that's how they're confronting it, and like it probably is. Like when we look at different coping mechanisms, there are some immature ones and mature ones, and I think like whether this falls into certain categories of bias and certain categories of coping mechanisms, I don't know because I don't know the conversation. But like, don't be discouraged by the fact that they've backtracked. Like that's not an indication of you, and it might not even be an indication of where they're going. This might just be them needing to address certain things, and they might overcome that or they might not. And I can't tell you either way how it's going to work. But
okay, that's the useful information. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. We're gonna let you go, but do give us a call back and let us know how you're getting on. And thank you very much for the email. We do appreciate it. And if Gabe is living proof that we do answer emails and we don't just let them disappear into the ether. So if you want to email us, feel free.